Welcome to the regular meeting of the Midcoast Community Council for August 28th, 2019. Will the council members please introduce themselves, starting on my left?
Dan Haggerty.
Tamar Powell.
Dave Olson.
Claire Tuton.
Michelle Weil.
And Barbara Matthewson.
And Len Erickson will not be here tonight. So, first item on the agenda is the Board of Supervisors report and other government representatives.
Alrighty.
Good evening, Ellie.
Good evening Midcoast Community Council. Good evening, community members. My name is Ellie Dahlman, and I'm here on behalf of San Mateo County Supervisor Don Horsley to provide a few brief updates for you on behalf of the county. So the first item I have is an update on the fire fuel reduction project that you heard about a few meetings ago from the Parks Department and CAL FIRE, that at Corey Park, which has kicked off. As I understand, the team was on site on August 5th, and the contractor that's been hired by CAL FIRE has completed around 20 acres or so of the fire fuel reduction work that they're planned to do. Their goal is to accomplish 100 acres of fire fuel reduction within Corey Park, which includes removal of small diameter trees, ladder fuels, and flash fuels. And another positive of this project is that the project is getting ready to start vegetation removal along the South Ridge Fire Trail, which will support the Parks Department's extension of the fire road through Corey Park. The next item I have is a brief update regarding the Moss Beach Playground. As you all may recall, and for those of you that weren't at the meeting, the county is in the process of replacing the Moss Beach Playground play equipment at the park. And as I understand, the tot lot was officially closed August 21st for renovations. And full closure of the park is anticipated to begin November 4th with a scheduled reopening for early next year. So we'll keep you updated on that. The department and staff needs time to, they have to close the park to ensure that it's no kids are playing when it's unsafe, and they need to take down the equipment that's existing, prepare the site for the new equipment that once it's delivered, they'll be able to install there. So that project is moving forward. The next item is just an update that I sent you all via email. The San Mateo County Arts Commission is conducting a needs assessment and strategic plan. And they created an online survey for general public to obtain input and information. And please email me. I think I emailed you all the survey link, but if there's anyone watching this or in the audience that's interested, please email me and I'd be happy to share that survey link with you. But we're encouraging all San Mateo County residents to complete the survey to ensure equitable and inclusive strategic plan for our county as it relates to the efforts of the San Mateo County Arts Commission. And it's a very brief 5-minute survey, less than that, and it's open until this Saturday. And if you have any questions, you can also contact by email artscommission@smcgov.org. And 2 more brief items. The first is just sharing with you that the County Office of Sustainability has planned to hold a Fix-It clinic open to anyone interested to attend. It's happening in Pacifica on Saturday, October 5th. At noon, from noon to 3. So as I understand, anything that you can carry that is broken, you can bring to the Fix-It clinic, and they'll have a number of volunteers if you're interested in volunteering to help work with people to fix things. It's a way to promote reducing, reusing, recycling our things rather than throwing them away. So I left a couple flyers out on the table if anyone's interested. I'm sure you can also find more information on the Office of Sustainability website as well. It's a partnership between San Mateo County Libraries, Pacifica Beach Coalition, Pacifica School District, Surfrider Foundation, and the Fix-It Clinic. And then the last item, which you all probably may know more about than me, is just, as you've probably seen, Caltrans has installed a painted crosswalk across Highway 1. I believe it's at Virginia Avenue. And as I understand, they're planning to install pedestrian signs at that location. I was overhearing some folks talk about some temporary signage that was put up. So just wanted to update you all on that, and that's all I have for you. Happy to take any questions or comments.
Any questions for Ellie? Thank you. I think Bob Nesbitt is here from City of Half Moon Bay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Bob Nesbitt, City Manager for Half Moon Bay, filling in for our Mayor, Harvey Rarbeck. He couldn't make it tonight, sends his apologies. I have 3 announcements. The first, I just wanted to plug the Summer End Music Festival that's occurring September 21st at Carter Park. This is the 2nd annual. Last year was deemed very successful, and so we're doing it again this year. So encourage people to come. I'll leave this poster, very nice poster too, leave this on the counter. Kind of leading up to it too, there's a series of kind of smaller scale concerts at MacDuter Plaza. So there's one this Saturday, it's a blues band. And then a week from this Saturday, I think it's one geared more to children. And then this is kind of the finale of the summer. So I'll leave that out there. The second thing I wanted to mention, this is hot off the press. So this is a new newsletter. The City Council hasn't even seen this yet, but it'll be going out Coastside, mailed out probably next week. And it's quarterly. This is the first issue, and this is devoted to public safety and emergency preparedness. So this is a new idea and a partnership, obviously, with the sheriff, the fire district, others, and this is the first edition. I'll also leave this out there, and as I said, people will see this in their mail from Pescadero all the way to Montera next week or the week after. So hopefully people appreciate that. Has tips about emergency preparedness, a message from the sheriff, some other things, and it'll be kind of new and different information every quarter coming from the city. And then finally, I want to announce one more event the city's having. I think this is also the 2nd annual. I think the first time was last year, and it was fairly successful, so we're doing that again. We call it Elections Night Out, and it's all about promoting voting and civics and registering to vote. And we really want to focus this year on having kids who are 16, 17, registering in preparation of turning 18. When they can then vote. Fun event, it's at the Adcock Community Center. Dinner, music, raffle prizes. If the election night out alone didn't get you, hopefully the free food, music, and raffle prizes does. It was pretty fun last year, and other city staff will be there and just other stuff to make it fun. So those are the 3 announcements that Harvey would have made had he been here. I'm happy to take any questions as well about city business.
Quick question, what was the date for the election night out?
Oh, sorry about that.
You may have said it.
I don't think I did. Thank you. September 24th, 5 to 8. September 24th, 5 to 8, Elections Night Out, Adcock Community Center.
I have a question about the publication that you're sending out.
Yes.
I think you said that's put together by what, OES or?
Yeah, it's a collaboration. I wish I'm seeing it for the first time, and I'm really impressed with the job that everyone did. So I can't wait to go back tomorrow and compliment all my staff and find out who was involved. But I think it was primarily the city, OES from the Sheriff's Department and at the county level, and also the CERT volunteer groups kind of in collaboration with the KEEP group that meets regularly. So it seemed like it was a full partnership. And there's an article in here from the fire district too. So everyone was involved.
Except us.
That's right. Quarterly.
Okay. All right.
So take a look at the first issue, and I'll make a note of that.
Okay, we'd love to be involved.
Yeah, and there, it's kind of done, it seems like it's done by agency, so there could be like a half a page devoted to, kind of whatever message the Midcoast Community Council wants to get out in the public safety / emergency preparedness area. That's a great idea.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
For that, you mentioned it would go from Pescadero to Montera.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so would that cover residents in Moss Beach area as well?
Yeah. Yeah, Coastside, yeah.
Anything else for Bob? Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Nancy, you put in a slip. I think you're representing the GCSD parks, right? So go ahead.
I'll talk fast because I know you have a big agenda.
We're not in a rush.
GCSD and Parks will have a survey coming out also, our first in 4 years, to look for input on amenities in the future Burnham Park on the Burnham Strip for summer recreation activities next summer. We're just finishing up our summer recreation activities for the second year this summer. And for a potential community center, what are the amenities or features that people would want should GCSD acquire a community center? So that will be coming out. Watch mailboxes in El Granada, unincorporated Miramar, Princeton, and Clipper Ridge sometime around the 9th of about a week from Monday or so. It should be hitting mailboxes. And we'll give a few weeks to, this just takes 8 minutes. I tried it to complete. You can also complete it online. It's available in English and in Spanish. But we're really hoping for hundreds and hundreds of responses. When we did a survey in 2015, we got about 600. So we're hoping for 4 digits this time. Shortly after this survey, the results will be reported at the October GCSD board meeting. The following week, on October 24th, we're having a workshop on Burnham Park that'll be more hands-on. It should be fairly fun, similar to some of the Quarry Park workshops, where we'll have people in groups prioritizing amenities that they'd like to see in the park and trying to map them out and place them where they'd like to see them in the park. So that will be with pizza and some fun group work on October 24th, but I'll remind you about that again later. Lastly, we'll have a newsletter coming out with this survey, and one of the items in it, we decided to take the bull by the horns on a particular thing that we're advocating for in Quarry Park. When Michelle Beasley from the San Mateo Parks Foundation was here a month or so ago, I spoke with her to see if we could get them to help advocate for a pump track in Quarry Park and perhaps help GCSD with funding, because GCSD has also offered up some funding. But we made a decision at the Parks Advisory Committee, which the board has endorsed, not to wait until the master plan is done. The last time we saw it, it had a potential pump track on it. But we know that once the master plan is done, then the work starts to actually develop proposals and find funding and all of that stuff. So we've agreed to form a pump track task force that will be led by Paul Kolsch, who's on the Parks Advisory Committee, a couple other folks from the Parks Advisory Committee, and he'll be reaching out to the community for help to develop basically a shovel-ready proposal for San Mateo County Parks at such time as they're ready to hear it. We're hoping that their master plan gets approved in the first quarter, and whenever it gets approved, we will be there with our plan for a pump track to try to get that going before, I told Chris today, before his son turns 18. That's it from us. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Any other government representatives here this evening? We'll do public comment and then announcements from the council. I have no speaker slips for public comment. It's open for anything that's not on the agenda. So hearing nothing, we will go around the table and see if people have announcements they wish to make. I have several, but I'll go last. Barbara, do you have anything?
The only thing I have to report is from the CERQ meeting that I went, that on Saturday, September 21st from 10 to 2, they'll be putting on the 15th Annual Disaster Preparedness Day. I believe it's the county that's doing that, at the San Mateo Event Center from 10 to 2. It's a family-friendly event where you can explore fire trucks, SWAT, and other emergency response vehicles, and enter into the Smoky Hall Shake House and see the bomb squad robots, attend classes on CPR, first aid, and more. There's free food, and the event is free, although there is a $15 parking fee. And that's at the San Mateo Event Center on September 21st.
Thank you. Michelle?
I don't have anything.
One thing to report, Caltrans sent out several announcements to mailing list I'm on. They are looking for public attendance at a series of meetings on where Caltrain, not Caltrans, where Caltrain should go over the next 20-odd years, including big budget items like electrification, connecting high-speed rail. There's a long and detailed presentation. If you go look at the Caltrain website, you'll see it. I will try and get a blog post up on that on the Midcoast Community Council website as well.
Thank you.
Mark? Dan? I actually have 5 things, if you can bear with me, because they're all fairly interesting. First is, as you recall, perhaps, the Seton system was sold a few years ago under the jurisdiction of the Attorney General, who set some standards for the services they would continue to provide, and the system is up for sale again. They do have a potential buyer, and the Attorney General is once again holding hearings to see whether they should still be held to the standards that were held before in terms of providing adequate, what was felt to be adequate services. So there will be a hearing this Friday at 10 a.m. at Mavericks Event Center, and the public is welcome to attend and to speak. The First Flush Group, which monitors the creeks after the first heavy rain to see about water quality, is looking for volunteers. Their training will be on the 10th of September at 6 p.m. at their Stone Pine offices for the Resource Conservation District. Climate Ready San Mateo is having another of its colloquia coming up on the 25th of September at the Crown Plaza in Foster City. The theme of this one is building health, economic, and social resiliency to climate change. So those are always interesting. If anybody's interested in attending that, that's open to the public. It's free.
Sorry, what was the date on that again?
9/25. You might want to look at the City of Half Moon Bay Planning Division's site, which is planhalfmoonbay.org. They have the complete draft of their land use plan there, and while that does not directly involve us, it does affect us, so it's worth looking at. The last thing is the Pacific Beach Coalition is expanding more of its operations to the Midcoast. They have a cleanup day scheduled for the 21st of September. They are going to have some operations at Surfers Beach, at Pillar Point, at some of the other beaches at the harbor, also in Montara and at Graywell Cove. They do need to be notified that these things are not all in Half Moon Bay. But it's good that they're having a presence here, and they are looking for volunteers to participate in that. That's all I have. Any questions?
The Climate Ready, was there a time for that?
Yes, 8:30 to 12.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. We have the minutes for our regular meeting of 7/24 and the retreat of 8/5. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Second?
All in favor? 6-0. All opposed? Okay, we'll move on to the regular agenda. And the first item on the agenda is recognition of the National Night Out events. If you recall, the county co-sponsored various block parties that people put on to improve the long-range security of the neighborhoods and to have fun. And Michelle coordinated that, and I'll turn it over to you.
Yep, let me just wait a moment for the presentation to come up.
Okay.
Most of it's pictures, so I can start speaking to it. Yeah, so on August 6th, we had an event called a National Night Out, which was a national event, but the Midcoast decided to take part in it for the first time. Half Moon Bay has participated for many years now. We had 4 block parties that took place across the Midcoast, from Montara to Miramar. over 125 people attended the various block parties. Can you get the next slide? $400 in gift certificates were provided, 100 to each block party by Supervisor Horsley, to be used for food and supplies. And the Montero block party had the largest turnout with 76, I don't know how many people actually visited, but 76 people signed up for more information on CERT, LISTOS, and emergency preparedness, which was the overall kind of theme of the event, to make people aware of ways to help, prevent or be prepared for emergencies, and to get to know their neighbors, basically. So that event was very successful. I just wanted to share a few pictures from the event. If you want to go on to the next slide. So these are some of the pictures from the various events. The event in Moss Beach, we actually closed the block, so we were out there in the street, which was kind of fun. There was an event at the Ebb Tide in Miramar. Next slide. One event took place at the harbor, and then we don't have any pictures from Montero, but as we know, that was a big success. Next slide. We had lots of great food at the various events. So a lot of them were done potluck style, where people just brought their own meals, and it was really great. Next slide. And then we also had visits from the Highway Patrol and Coastside Fire. So it was just good to get members of the community out and get to know their neighbors. And we're really thankful for the various hosts that volunteered to host these events. We hope next year we can do it again and get even more hosts. Maybe have a competition for which community can get the largest turnout. We can go on to the next slide. So really quickly, what I wanted to do, we actually did get, we have this raffle prize that we're going to raffle off to the various winners, or the various the hosts of the different block parties, and this is an earthquake survival kit. And so I have, so these are these are the hosts of the various events. Tamara and I don't count, we're not eligible for this this prize, but I have the 4 other hosts up, their names in this, and I would like someone to come up and just draw a name for me. Can someone from the audience come up and just pick our winner? Thanks, Nancy. All right. Laura Kamadeka from Montero. She's one of the hosts of the Montero party, so we'll get this prize to her.
Laura's not here to accept it.
No, she's not here. No, but you don't have to be present to win, so but really appreciative of everyone who hosted and who also attended.
Well, it sounds like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And one item I just wanted to acknowledge is that the raffle prize was donated by the Sheriff's Office of Emergency Services, so
yes.
I'm grateful for their support, and I think this was a really great turnout for the first year, and we look forward to partnering in the future on this.
Yeah,
so thanks for your leadership.
Yes, and thanks for to the supervisor for the gift cards. That was great.
Any other comments?
Thank you, Michelle, for pulling it together.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks.
Good job.
Proximity was great.
Okay, second item on the agenda is a presentation from the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District. And they've sent 2 of their people here, Corey Skinner, who's the Public Affairs Manager, and Stefan Jaskovic. No. Would you say your name for me, please? Okay. Sorry. Who is the CFO of the district. And they're going to bring us up to date on Measure AA.
Put it up here. No. All right. Good evening. My name is Stefan Jaskovic from the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District. Thank you for having us. Just out of curiosity, who all has heard of us? Oh, perfect. Excellent. Thank you. I would like to, well, we're basically here because we're celebrating 5 years of Measure AA. It was passed back in 2014. It's now 2019, and we wanted to come down here and provide you with an update. Before we go back into that, let me show you the mission of MidPen, and it's basically to acquire a green belt of open space in perpetuity, right? And to protect and restore natural environment to provide opportunities for ecologically sensitive public enjoyment and education. And big reason for this is also Conservation International has identified about 25 biodiversity hotspots, which are basically places. They make up only 0.2% of the total landmass of the Earth, but they have 9% of all the endemic species, which means they're not found anywhere else. And the California Floristic Province, which runs from Oregon all the way down to Baja, so the length of the state, is the only hotspot in the U.S. We have about 6,700 known species. 28% of those are at risk for extinction. And the Santa Cruz Mountains, our whole region here, is right in the middle of all that. So that's one big reason to preserve our lands. So basically, we were founded in 1972, a little bit before my time. 47 years ago. The first 40 years were focused on land acquisition. On that map, basically the dark green is the green belt that we've assembled. Light green is owned by other agencies or also by post. So it could be state, it could be county parks as well. But the dark green is MidPen land. So it basically stretches all the way from San Carlos to Los Gatos, and then we go from the ocean to the bay. We have 26 reserves, open space reserves, of which 24 are open to the public. A total about 63,000 acres. Our boundaries, we have parts of 3 counties and 17 cities are inside of our boundaries. Last count, I think we had 760,000 inhabitants in our district. But we also serve areas outside of district when we draw in public. And so the grassroots initiative, Measure R, which is Room to Breathe, back in 1972, was passed by 2/3 of the votes in Santa Clara County. And then San Mateo joined in 1976. And then we also had a small piece of Santa Cruz County was added. And then the San Mateo Coast was added in 2004. We have about 180 employees, more than 600 volunteers, and our main offices are down in Los Altos. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. As far as activities, we have 240 miles of trails that you can enjoy. 16 preserves have mountain bike trails, so not all trails are available for mountain biking, but at least for hiking we have a lot. And 11 preserves are dog friendly. One of them also is an off-leash area, dogs can exercise. We have the backpack camp. We have docent-led hikes every weekend, volunteer opportunities as well, and we have equestrian trails too. Quite a bit of opportunity to get out and enjoy our properties. As far as the volunteer programs, we have the Preserve Partners, which is basically in the front lines of restoring and maintaining trails and preserves. We also have patrol volunteers for the trails, so you can hike or you can ride your bike or saddle up your horse and patrol the trail. We have a nature center. We have hosts for that, for the David Daniels Nature Center. And then also some outdoor activity docents and education leaders. We also work as part of a team of small groups of 3rd through 5th graders for field trips to the Nature Center. Those can be on Tuesdays and Thursdays typically. That is a picture of our Nature Center. It's open weekends, basically from April to November, from noon to 5. And then they change in the fall to about 11 to 4 because of daylight. There's a half-mile loop trail. We have a lot of pond creatures, a mural. We have a snake. Every now and then I get the invoice for the food for the snake. I didn't know what that was when I first moved out here, but it was kind of fun. Picnic tables, restrooms, all the amenities are right there. And then, so that's on the Skyline Ridge Preserve. The bottom picture is from the Deer Hollow Farm that's in our Rancho San Antonio Preserve. It's actually a working historic farm. And we have a lot of animals there as well, goats, pigs, chickens, etc. So you can observe and participate in a working farm. Great for kids. Midpen on the coast. There's definitely local concerns about agriculture and open space protection. Right? We have the Coastal Advisory voted Midpen extension, which was done in 2003. It was a coastal plan. LAFCO, I always forget what this stands for, but it's from the county, approved it in 2004. And then we started purchasing lands as they became available and reintroduce or maintain active grazing. It's very important for us when we buy tracts of land to reintroduce grazing. It's part of the culture, it's part of the heritage of the coast, and it also helps us in maintaining and preserving the lands in a natural state. This is a map gives you an idea of how the district then is split or originally was. So the yellow lines on the right is the district pre-coastal annexation, and the dashed, I think that's a blue line, the dashed line is the coastal area, as we call it. And we're somewhere in the top left, obviously. Go all the way down to the, so it goes from Pacifica all the way down to the Santa Cruz border. We did develop a separate Coastside Mission, or an additional Coastside Mission, I should say. And so it has the same language, but the bold part is inserted for the coast, so this preserve open space land and agricultural land, preserve the rural character, and encourage viable agricultural use of those land resources. Purisima Creek, Redwoods Open Space Preserve is not too far from here. We have about 24 miles for hiking, biking, horses. There's wheelchair accessible trails and restrooms. That preserve is about 4,700 acres, and it's in the Purisima Creek Canyon. There's redwoods, creeks, understory of ferns, berries, and wildflowers, and also great views of the coast.
And a lovely brand new bathroom.
Thank you. Yeah, we recently completed that. La Honda Creek Open Space Preserve was opened recently, about a year or so ago. I think it was about a year or so ago. It's about 6,100 acres of historic ranch land, also has coastal views, wildflowers. There's also a very iconic red barn just off of Highway 84. It'll be painted red again within this fiscal year. There's also forest, redwoods, and open grassland, as you can see, as well as ponds, and we definitely actively graze that as well for conservation. And the interesting thing there is that the public on hiking trails will be sharing the space, if you will, with the cattle, the grazing cattle. So they're not separated trails necessarily, but they go right through the grazing areas. Then we have Mindego Hill and the Russian Ridge Preserve that leads from the Mindego Gateway parking area all the way up the hill. It's open. We opened it a few years ago. We also have the Audrey Rust Commemorative Site, which is named after the former president of Post, which is the Peninsula Open Space Trust. And So it has viewing platforms and also wheelchair accessible terrace, etc. And if you go all the way up to the hill, you get a great 360 view, including the ocean as well. And I've done that hike, and it's a workout, but it's a lot of fun. Great views.
Great views, yeah.
So if I step back for a minute, and so in 2012 we did a vision plan, and we had a lot of public input, and out of that vision plan came 54 priority actions. Actions are basically groups of projects, and then we took the top 25 of those actions and created that into our Measure AA expenditure plan, which was approved by the voters in 2014 with almost 68% approval. And that's a total of a $300 million general obligation bond over 30 years. So we issue that as we have projects and as we go along. We don't issue the full 300 up front, but we do it in different tranches. And the vision plan is robust and has basically the view for the next 40 years for the district as far as our main focus projects, etc. So 5 years. It's been 5 years since Measure AA was approved, and we have quite a few accomplishments. On the coast alone, we've invested $16 million. We've preserved scenic and agricultural lands. We've restored watersheds, native habitats, improved the water quality. We've also opened new coastal properties to the public with access facilities. And then we're also actively installing and repairing grazing and ag infrastructure, fencing, water troughs, etc. So in 5 years, we've invested $16 million. This gives you an idea of the distribution of Measure AA portfolios or action items, if you will. Those are the yellow stars. And then the main lines, the thicker lines, are hiking connection, trails. There's the Ridge Trail, there's the Bay Area Trail, there's various connections to go from the bay to the sea. Purisima to the sea is one of them. That's number 3 up there. It gives you an idea as to what we're planning for the next 40 years. We're 5 years in. The purple stars are in the coastal area. It's 2, 4, 6, 8 of them. 8 out of 25. This gives you a breakdown of the total funding of that $300 million, how that shakes out by our different action items, by our different project portfolios. A total of $140 million. Going all the way from Miramontes, which is close to here. A lot of work at Purisima. We've already done a lot of work at La Honda, which is number 7. We've done quite a bit of work. Russian Ridge, number 9, that's the Mindego Hill, right? We're working on, we have conversations with Post regarding Cloverdale Ranch, which is close to the Santa Cruz County line. And then there are the regional trails and redwood protection, as well as salmon fishery conservations as well. So through Measure AA, we've protected more than 1,300 acres of land. That brings the total on the coast side up to about 11,000 acres. A lot of rural scenic vistas, a lot of watersheds and downstream water quality as well, which is important. Riparian corridors with perennial creeks for spawning habitats of the coho salmon and the steelhead, as well as redwood forest and other native wildlife habitat. Watershed restoration, improve the water quality, a lot of projects, pond repairs, and reconstruction. A lot of them are failing, so rebuilding those. This work also benefits populations of endangered species, and also supports continuation of grazing of properties. Driscoll Ranch, we've done extensive road improvements, regrading roads. Sometimes the roads we need to regrade them so they don't continue running sedimentation into the streams, and so we rebuild all of that. We also do a lot of partnership projects with the San Mateo County RCD, with Post, also with county parks. This is a picture of the La Honda Open Space Preserve, which we opened last year, and then Mindego Hill was the year before that. La Honda has about 6 miles of ranch roads, and we fixed all that up. You see a lot of hikers out there, a lot of open space. This gives you an idea of some of the grazing infrastructure, what comes about. A lot of water lines, pumps, ranch road repairs, water troughs. Also put fencing in, a lot of fencing, so that ranchers can graze cattle on the land and maintain it that way. And then there's also a lot of stock pond repairs. This gives you an idea of the Driscoll Ranch grazing improvements. We worked with the tenant. We put in 20 water troughs, 7 storage tanks, 6 solar pumps, about 29,000 feet of pipe, 5.5 miles, new corral, repaired fences, roads, springs, old troughs, etc. And then a lot of meadows were parceled out that way to improve the grazing operation. That's year-round, that's almost 3,700 acres. In 2019, so that's the upcoming tax, the coast will begin to contribute to Measure AA. The rate for 2019 is set at $1.60 per 100,000 of assessed value. So if your assessed value, for example, is $1 million, that means that it will be $16. You'll see it as a line item on your property tax bill. When we first passed Measure AA, we put a maximum of $3.18 on that. But so right now we're at $1.60, about half of that. And you should see the bills going out from the county probably in, I think in October, thereabouts. We've done a lot of outreach on the coast, celebrating our 5 years of accomplishments. We went to visit Half Moon Bay, town mayor, vice mayor, and city manager. We also went to the San Mateo County Farm Bureau. We met with Supervisor Horsley and his staff. We went to Pescadero Municipal Advisory Council. We're here tonight with you, Midcoast Community Council. And we're also preparing a Coastside mailing of reintroducing ourselves, as well as Measure AA and accomplishments. This is a sneak preview of the brochure. We'll have a lot of information on it. It will go out in September. This is the inside of the brochure, which will give you a lot of information on where you can enjoy our collective preserves, as well as connect with nature, volunteer as well, or how to contact us with any questions. With that, I thank you for having us. There'll be more to come. We're only 5 years into the 30 years of Measure AA. And I would like to entertain any questions you may have.
Any questions from the public or comments? How about the council? Gorgeous pictures.
Thank you.
We're very lucky to have you, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Where is the one off-leash dog park?
Oh, God. I should know that.
Pulgus Ridge. It's
Pulgus?
in Carlos.
Corey Skinner, Public Affairs Manager, Pulgus Ridge, which is right
Oh,
across
okay.
Edgewood Road.
Yeah,
Edgewood.
okay, thank you.
Great question.
Popular thing on the coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in addition to presenting here at the Midcoast Community Council, how else are you going to be getting a message out to the community?
Well, we have a mailer that goes to all residents.
Okay.
And we have met with City of Half Moon Bay, with the Farm Bureau, with Pescadero, and I think I'm missing one. Supervisor Horsham, yes.
Yeah, great. That should do it.
Thank you.
Not a question for me, but I do want to say thank you to you and everybody else that the Open Space District for all of these preserves. I do a lot of hiking in them. They're great. I know that the public is not always easy. I went to many of those sessions that helped develop those 25 objectives, and I know that there was a lot of controversy, especially at the coastal meetings, a lot of it around the agriculture, but I think it's turning out very well. I'm anxiously awaiting the Bay to Sea trails.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate the positive feedback. And also, I'd be remiss, our general manager, Anna Ruiz, could not be here tonight because our meeting schedule happens to be identical to yours. So she sends her apologies and she sends us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell her we missed her, but we were happy with her substitutes. So, what? Okay, the next item on the agenda is consideration of a letter to the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission regarding the closure of Montara Mountain North Peak, or did we say?
North Peak.
North Peak. The agenda item says South Peak, it should be corrected to be North Peak. I'll give you just a little bit of background on this, and then Barbara will present some visuals, and then we'll discuss the letter. Basically, as most people who follow next door know, there was a fence put up excluding people from the peak of Montara Mountain abruptly with no notice. And what happened is that there was a planned upgrade of the radar-based rainfall prediction center that they use for the watershed for SFPUC. And there was some public notification that they were going to do that, but it sounded like a relatively minor thing. There was an existing facility there. However, when they went to do their assessment for the EIR for their project, they discovered vegetation there that supported endangered butterflies, so they immediately erected a fence with no notice and said it was permanently closed to people walking there. So there's been some concern about that. Barbara has pictures, which I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay. We have a really short presentation, just a little background. The Public Utilities Commission of San Francisco bought this property back in 1930, and it's pretty much been open to the public walking through due to their neglect and the remoteness of the area. They didn't monitor it very well, and they've just allowed people to walk through it. I'm assuming I'm not sure, Dave, where, right there.
Yeah, it's there.
And let's just go to the next slide. This is the area, and down at the bottom here is where they put the fence, I believe, the existing road. And this is the area that they're trying to, that they've gated off.
This area here This area here is the actual literal top of the mountain.
And that's also off limits.
That is now closed, yeah.
And the next slide shows the view. This is actually from, I believe, the South Peak, but it shows the gorgeous views from up there that hikers go up there to enjoy. This is the gate that was newly installed. And that's it.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and read the letter. It's short, and so everybody has an idea what we're saying. And then we'll open it for questions, content questions for the council, and then public comment, and then we'll talk about it. It says, the Midcoast Community Council would like to express its concern about the loss of recreational resources associated with the permanent closure of the North Peak of Montara Mountain. This location has been a treasured goal of hikers and affords unparalleled views of the Bay Area. We understand that the SFPUC owns the land in question as well as much of the land around it. In addition, a portion of the land is leased to the County of San Mateo for a cell tower. In the past, the summit has been reachable by the North Peak Access Road and the Montara Mountain Trail operated by GGNRA, both of which pass through McNee State Park. In 2018, environmental studies were undertaken preparatory to enhancing communications and installing the Montara Mountain Rainfall Prediction and Radio Replacement Project for the SFPUC watershed. During that process, the SFPUC noted habitat that could support endangered butterflies and decided that access to the area needed to be stopped with enhanced fencing. Work continued with the radar-related installations. The MCC supports protection of sensitive habitat, but the context of this land's use is complicated with many different state, county, and local aspects. Residents and visitors to the area feel that, while some notice was given on the rainfall installation, there was no opportunity for input or modification of trail closures. The MCC asked that the SFPUC make an effort to work with people who are affected by this closure to reach a solution that would protect the interests of everyone. And I'll add one piece of information to this before we start talking about it, and that is the San Mateo Planning Commission met on this today. The San Francisco had asked them for an advisory vote to state that this project was in compliance with San Mateo County's general plan. The Planning Commission voted to say that it is not in compliance with San Mateo's plan, and that message will be sent back to San Francisco, but it is only an advisory vote. So with that, any content questions from the...
Not really a content question, but one clarification. Buried deep in the negative declaration for this project was a statement that a fence would be built to prevent access. This was before the discovery of the butterfly habitat. And the statement with that said, oh, this has no effect on the public because the peak has been closed to the public for many years, which was clearly incorrect. So that actually predates the discovery of the butterfly and the butterfly habitat.
I don't have any speaker slips. Was there anyone in the okay, this one. If you want to speak, please fill out a slip, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, I am Sean Handel. I kind of started this whole thing, I think. So a few weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago, I was up running on Montara Mountain on a regular Tuesday night run when, with a couple buddies, we do that every week, discovered the peak closure. I've been personally up on the peak hundreds of times over the last 18 years, biking, running, hiking with my kids, etc. So it was a complete surprise. So, first comment, I guess, is that, thank you for doing this. But the idea that they have had any type of public outreach, I think, is pretty false. They claim that they have, and they really haven't. In their declaration, they mentioned that they notified landowners within 300 yards or whatever of course means nobody, because no one lives up there. So I went to the SFPUC meeting last week and spoke as part of this. They claimed that the fence was being closed as part of a separate initiative. You know, it was not attached to this project, which clearly wasn't true either because of the way that this thing all went down. So I showed up with a PowerPoint documenting a lot of the use from people around the coast, you know, over the last, 20 years, pictures, San Mateo County Parks website, Golden Gate National Rec Area signs, so tons of documentation and pictures of how people have used this space over the last couple of decades at least. They did go ahead and approve the project anyway, but at least by showing up, they also told the project team to do some outreach to the community. So on Monday, I went and met with that project team with a couple other Coastsiders and, kind of got the lowdown that they are, on paper at least, planning to do some public outreach to see if they can, do anything around, reopening some access. They did state, though, that since the planned project is going to take up the entire mountain peak, there's really not much space to do anything up there, and so I'm not sure what that actually means. Separately, I put together a petition of mostly Coastsiders, who were, using the space, and got 390 people to sign it, and a lot of them documenting how they've used the space over the last, couple of decades. So happy to send that to you if you don't already have access to it. So I think, at this point, the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission pretty much has the right to do whatever they want, and I think our only chance of stopping this or reopening access is to have agencies like this and a lot of public, put pressure on them. They seem to have reacted a bit to the public pressure that they got at that meeting, and I think this will continue to help if we, send this message. So I support what you're doing here, and thank you for doing that. One other key comment is when I was meeting with them on Monday, I think, Tim Ramirez, the head of the project, for the rainfall project installation, said it's not actually about the butterflies. The butterflies exist on the watershed side of the mountain, and they closed this because of other reasons. And the main reason was that they have this master plan from 20 years ago that says fence off everything they own.
Okay.
So, okay. Sorry, I went over. But
No, thank you.
Thank you for bringing this to everybody's attention, and everybody else who did that.
Yeah. So, I think we first need a motion. Oh, I'm sorry, another slip.
It was okay. I think that gentleman might have one too, maybe.
Sure, Bob?
Sure. So I'm going to speak just wearing my citizen hat, not my city manager hat. So I'm familiar with the area too. I've been up there and I live here and have really gotten to know the trails around here. And also knowing from a previous job kind of how SFPUC works, I do know Tim Ramirez, so maybe I can be of assistance. Obviously, fight the good fight. I'm all for it. I'll sign the petition. And the speaker is absolutely right. Pressure does matter from agencies and people. But that also then might buy leverage. I mean, if this is a done deal and they're not going to open it, then maybe there's leverage to trade and get something else. And so I don't know what that something else is, but SFPUC has lots of land. There's pressure on them to open it in different ways. I know there's a beautiful ridge trail that connects Montera all the way over to what the mountain bikers call God's Trail. I don't know what it's really called. That's not open to the public, and that is just a horrible thing. That bridge trail should be open to the public. So maybe there's room for a trade. Can't get the peak, get something else. But I support what everyone's doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. Anybody else want to comment on this?
My name's Jake. I've been living in El Granada since 1994, and I've been living on the coast since the mid-'70s. I keep this running diary, and it sort of became just a journal over time, and I look back through it, and I've been to the summit of North Peak, Montera Mountain, 60 times since 1993. And never seen a sign that said no trespassing, never had to climb a fence or go over a gate or anything. I was aware of the fence just past the little road you take to get up to the summit. There's a fence just past that, big gate, big signs, no trespassing. So I always assumed, okay, that's watershed property. And I kind of assumed that the summit, the North Peak Summit, was part of either McNee Ranch or the GGNRA, Golden Gate National Recreation Area. I didn't realize it was owned by SFPUC. Otherwise, I might have been paying more attention to possible closure of it. That mountaintop's kind of sacred to me. Like I said, I've been up there 60 times since 1993, taken both my kids up there when they were 3 years old in backpacks. I hiked up there with my then girlfriend I only had known for a couple of months, and she's now my wife. So we did that in like 2001. And we just had a guy from the Open Space District here, and they've spent a lot of money opening another big summit mountain in the Bay Area. That's Mount Umunum. So we have several pretty iconic peaks in the Bay Area. We have Mount Tamalpais, we have Mount Diablo, Mount Hamilton. Now Mount Umunum is open to the public. Montara Mountain's North Peak's views rival all of those. And not being able to get just that little bit up to the summit, you don't have those views. You don't have any views of the actual Bay Area. You have great views out to the ocean, but you don't have any views of the actual bay without being able to get that last bit up to the summit. And also them saying that they're doing this to protect butterfly habitat. Well, I noticed in their plan, they're planning on clearing a couple of 1,000 feet of vegetation, and they're also planning on putting on at least a couple of 100 square feet of concrete pad right on the summit itself. To build something right on the summit of that mountain is, I don't know how to describe how horrible that makes me feel. And I don't see how it would be for protection of butterflies with them putting up a gate. So I totally support what you're doing with this, and your approval of this. And I guess that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay. I need a motion to approve the letter so we can discuss it.
I'll make a motion and we approve the letter.
Second.
Okay. So we'll open it for discussion, starting with Barbara.
I agree with what everybody said. I think we have to do whatever we can to hopefully change their minds, but I support the letter.
Michelle?
Yeah, I fully support the letter. It's a shame that they closed this, especially without any notice or public communication. I feel like we need to do what we can to fight back against it.
I'll say something later. Dave?
I fully support this. I too have been to the peak many, many times. I have friends who are perfectly happy to go to the West Peak, the peak that shows in this picture, which is 20 feet lower. But you really don't get the views over towards the southeast and in some parts of the bay that you get from the top on the North Peak. I want to add, we're sending this to the GGNRA superintendent as well. The GGNRA has by law a recreational easement across the SFPUC lands. That does not mean that they can do whatever they want, but they have the easement. When there's recreation, the GGNRA is involved. And this is taking away a significant recreational opportunity, so they are on the delivery list for this letter. And again, I want to thank Sean and everybody else who brought this to the community's attention.
Yeah, I'm fully support the water. I hope we can get some action on it.
Yeah.
I fully support the letter. I've done a lot of mountain biking up there. Unfortunately, I never got to the very peak, so I hope someday I can. And it's just sad. It's just a really sad news here for me. I'm just learning about this. Yeah, I'm very disturbed. It just doesn't seem right for the people that care about it and use it. It should be open somehow. I don't know what's really behind it. It sounds like they're adding antennas or doing something, but it's just, they should be able to work with people, so.
I obviously support it as well. I kind of wish it could be stronger, but I don't think it can be because we have no direct jurisdiction, and I think that there are a lot of legal implications about what's been going on. I think what we can do is lend our voice to everybody else's effort to, as Bob said, reach some sort of deal and make people think twice before they just do things unilaterally. So let's go around again, make sure if anybody else has anything else to say on this. Barbara?
No.
No.
I have one other thing to add. At the Planning Commission meeting this morning, the staff actually reversed the recommendation on a staff report in response to all the public comments on this and letters to the Planning Commission. So I think we should add Steve Monowitz, the Director of Planning, to the recipient list of this letter.
Okay.
Is there any rationale or practical sense behind adding some sort of time window around a response or when we want that effort to come together? I don't know how these things tend to sit if we just submit this and then what happens next is just get followed along, or if in our ask, if there's any purpose behind saying we'd like to revisit this after a certain amount of time, just to sort of expect a response.
If I can just comment, and other people can say something too. My sense of that is that we aren't driving this, so it'd be hard for us to set an actual time frame, but other people would be probably in a better position to do that. Dan?
No.
Let's try it again. Barbara? Michelle?
No, I just had a thought. I know this was written up in the Half Moon Bay Review, but doesn't seem to have been covered by the Chronicle or anything else. I wonder if it would be worth copying them or like sending the letter that we write to the Chronicle to see if they could cover it. It's probably a long shot, but it seems like something they might be interested in.
My comment on that is I think that's better from a private individual than from us, since we are advisory to the supervisors. It seems a little questionable.
Okay. Yeah. No? Are we ready to vote? Okay. So all in favor of sending the letter as we've discussed who it's going to, as written? Aye. Raise your hand. All opposed? Passes 6-0. Thank you. The next item, the following item on the regular agenda, is actually not at a point where we can say we know what's going to happen yet. It's still in process. There's been a lot of activity since the crosswalk was put in last Thursday, a lot of speculation, a lot of trying to reach a conclusion. The title of the agenda item is Consider Letter to Caltrans Regarding Upgrades to Highway Crossing in Moss Beach. I think I'll read this letter too, and then we'll look at some pictures, and then we'll start talking about it. The letter that is currently here as a draft, and once again, things change day to day, but this is what we have right now, is the Midcoast Community Council has long advocated for safe crossings of Highway 1 on the Midcoast, especially in Moss Beach, which is the only city in San Mateo County that has significant population on both sides of the highway. We now see that there is a zebra-type crosswalk at Highway 1 and Virginia Street. There are also advisory signs, one with, this is before today, one with a flashing beacon some distance from the crosswalk as one drives north on Highway 1, and a lesser signage southbound. The community has had no awareness that this was going to be installed. We note, however, your long-standing concern that painted crosswalks can lend a false sense of invulnerability. For this reason, the current mitigation actually remains dangerous. There is an urgent need to improve the visibility of this crossing. There are no similar crossings in the area, and motorists do not expect to encounter one while traveling at or above the 50-mile speed limit. The MCC asks that you work with us to improve the safety of the crossing immediately. Possible improvements would include a refuge median, signage closer to the crossing, reduced speed limit, hawk signals, pavement texturing, in-road on-demand lighting, public awareness of this safer alternative, and other measures. We look forward to continuing to work with you to improve safety and mobility on the Midcoast. So if we could look at the pictures. Just a really quick overview. If you look today, there are signs which do not show up on these pictures because they just came out today, that are immediately on top of the crosswalk, notifying people that they're there. These are temporary. This is what it looks like now. This is looking, south across the highway, I believe. Is that right, Barbara? Barbara, Texas.
Southwest,
That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. There it is. Next one. This is a little bit more informative. This is driving toward the crosswalk, and if you look real close, you can see it. But you have to look pretty close.
Right in front of that oncoming car.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. This is another angle from the side street. Next.
That's it?
That's it. Did we put Len's video up here?
Sure. One second here.
Len has been helping with this even though he's not here.
Let's see.
That's it.
The important thing, put that up again. The important thing to notice on that is there are two skateboarders waiting to cross at the crosswalk, or one's approaching it, the other is waiting.
You can actually see the crosswalk fairly well as the car is driven once you're actually right on top of it, but it's not very visible before you get there, and you can easily miss it. Okay, so what we've gotten from Caltrans since then is first some confusion because apparently a work order went out for this. They say because a member of the community requested it and a local legislator backed them up. I don't know who that was or why or how come this happened, but a work order went out for it. They put it in on Thursday. We contacted our Caltrans contacts. They didn't know anything about it, but they have worked pretty hard to figure out what's going on. They do understand that this is not acceptable. The one good thing is they're finally paying attention to the fact that we do have a problem here. So I think there's something to be worked with. But there are supposed to be some permanent improvements to its visibility, which might be installed Friday. They're looking for underground utility lines. I'm not sure what the permanent signage is going to be. Right now they've got temporary signs up. And any factual questions from the council, or can I just open it up to for public comment? Okay, we have one speaker slip on this from Chris Johnson, and as a courtesy to a former council member, we're giving him 5 minutes. Chris?
Thanks, Claire. I really appreciate the extra time. So all day long, I had worked myself into a lather. But I feel kind of deflated right now with the Montero Mountain, although great work, Sean, and there's promise there. Since the 2010 Safety and Mobility Study, we've been trying to get safe crossings in the coast side. Len Erickson has been on that since the beginning. I think Dave might have been as well. Since 2013, this has been an issue that has been really important to me that I have tried to work hard on. The county has spent tens of thousands of dollars on consultants. We've had numerous public meetings with input. We've had numerous design ideas floated. This thing right here and the way it was done is a complete insult to the council, to the residents of the Midcoast, and as well to the county. If you go and look at it, it is sloppily done, poorly done, okay? I gave the council a document. I think I have one in the audience want to look at it. Today I went around and measured all of the different crosswalks, or a great sampling of them on the Midcoast. I also looked at Caltrans standards for crosswalks. This crosswalk is 7 feet wide in a 50-mile-an-hour zone. If you look at this chart, the next narrowest one is the one at Highway 1 at Coronado, 10 feet wide. There's a stoplight there, okay? All of the other crosswalks on Highway 1 and that I sampled in this survey have dedicated signs or stoplights, and they are all much wider. Some as wide as 14 feet. This is a 7-foot wide crosswalk where there are no signs. And let's get to that as part of the insult. So I provided this document. Caltrans documents are hard to figure out. But one thing I want to quote here, per Caltrans, and I've given the link there if somebody wants to look at it, crosswalk lines should not be used indiscriminately. An engineering study should be performed before a marked crosswalk is installed at a location away from traffic control signal or an approach controlled by a stop or yield sign. The engineering study should consider the number of lanes, the presence of a median, the distance from adjacent, and on and on. This thing was slapped together, apparently, and Caltrans can't even get their story straight. So I'm not buying any of this, and I am really upset. I am personally insulted. This is an insult to everybody that lives here, that we would go through year end to the process, and it undermines the credibility of this body, the county, and the entire process. That we're going to try to do it the right way with professionally designed crossings, and they're going to slap some paint on the pavement and then come up with cover stories of, oh, it was a resident requested it, and yeah, we're putting signs up. I was there on Sunday. I almost got hit crossing that thing twice. One, I was standing on the other side of the road from where those skateboarders were. The crosswalk just peters out into the dirt right at the turn. So I was standing there at the mouth of the crosswalk waiting to cross. A car came and turned on Virginia and almost took me out because I'm standing there at the crosswalk and there are people cutting the corner there because the pavement is there and they cut the corner. No signs or anything. So then I wait till there's no cars. I go out into the crosswalk, looking, and I get about halfway through and all of a sudden a car out of nowhere, probably from the unfettered access to the highway along the Taqueria, which is another Caltrans standards that they are not upholding, nearly hit me. Didn't slow down, never saw me. I'm standing in the middle of the crosswalk, never saw me, okay? This crosswalk on either side of it are at least 60 feet of unfettered access to the highway at the Chevron station and at the Taqueria. So it is in a dangerous location. It is poorly done. It doesn't even meet their width standards. It should be at least 8 feet wide, at least. It's 7 feet wide. So it is dangerous. It is done without any public input at all. Caltrans didn't even notify the MCC, the county, nobody. And now they're coming up with cover stories trying to say that, oh, yeah, we need to put signs there. There were no signs there on Sunday. If you go and look at the signs that are there today, the ones going northbound, as your northbound approach, are sitting in the weeds on the shoulder at ground level, and they're about this tall. Nobody can see those or even know what they're supposed to mean. Those are temporary signs, okay? If they're supposed to have done an engineering study, you would think that they would have ground cleared for the signs, there would be surveying marks, we would have seen surveyors. None of that was done, okay? It's a lie. It is a lie. I don't know why. And so that is one of the reasons I am so mad. Caltrans tells us they can't do above ground or below ground crossings at Gray Whale Cove because of their standards, or they won't do it, or whatever. But they're going to allow unfettered access to Highway 1 and put in crosswalks that don't even meet their standards. okay? They won't fix Devil's Slide, there's a cone there, the road is undercut right now, and there's a cone there for protection.
Chris, can you get...
Are we close? Really, we are? Oh, sorry.
You wanna-
Okay, so I'm really mad, and per this letter, unfortunately, this is the only kind of letter that the MCC can send. And of course, I would want something much more strident, as you can tell. And it's not that I'm against Caltrans. My friend Barbara and I, we worked to get our Adopt a Highway program going, and I really enjoy that program and the people we work with at Caltrans. Also worked with them on Surfers Beach Stairs. Okay, so it's not a personal grudge against Caltrans, but with what's happening on Montero Mountain and now this, somebody needs to be held accountable for this. And what I'm asking for the council, which I know can't happen and won't happen, is a letter of serious rebuke, which of course can't and won't happen because this is a diplomatic body. I need somebody from Caltrans standing here explaining without lying, without cover stories about what happened. I'm sorry, Claire, I'm wrapping it up. About what happened, because neither of the things they have put out so far are true. And failing that, and not a public information officer, an actual person who signed the order or worked on it or whatever, knows actually what happened and why. And failing that, a Freedom of Information Act request about all correspondence and discussion about this crosswalk at Caltrans, because what we do not know, we don't know anything. Was this political pressure? Was this a developer who wanted something? Was this for future development? Well, I'm going there, Claire. I mean, if you're saying I'm out of time, I will respect that, but as far as we can't go there.
Well, I mean, within this time frame.
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of other people to talk, but
that's what we're doing.
Okay, Claire.
Thank you.
All right.
Marcia?
Marcia Yates, Moss Beach, and I'm a member of Resist Density. The letter that the MCC is sending to, has written, it assumes that Caltrans made this crosswalk. Of course, we figured it had to be them, but, and it acknowledges that the advisory flashing beacon, the one that drives north on Highway 1, but that has nothing to do with the crosswalk. The letter accepts the crosswalk and expresses an urgent need to improve its visibility. The MCC should press for removal of the crosswalk and until a real plan is in place. Because we've been talking about Connect the Coast and traffic mitigation for Cypress Point or the Mid-Penn project, and maybe this is to slow it down, to slow traffic down for the development so they don't have to mitigate the traffic on their dangerous blind curve. And so I think that we really, like Chris says, it can't be that strident, but I think we need to really approach it with regard to the process that we've all been grinding through to get safe crosswalks and the traffic mitigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Bill, welcome.
I guess I just made it. Thank you, Council. I saw it was supposed to be on at 8:15, and I ran into a couple of people today who told me, wow, I must have grandchildren because they finally put a crosswalk in Morris Beach. The answer is no. I'm not one of those type of people. Well, over 25 years ago, we started asking for a safe crossing in Moss Beach. When my daughter, I could basically hold her from my hand to my elbow. She's now out of college, works out of the area. And I just drove past that, and it's like, are you kidding me? 25 years for this basically makeshift crosswalk? So I want to give you some ammo. California Vehicle Code 21950. If you're not familiar with it, basically states, I didn't write it down because I was in a hurry to get here, that pedestrians have the right of way in a crosswalk at an intersection or no crosswalk at an intersection. So if you're not jaywalking, cars are supposed to slow down and yield to you, okay? That's 21,950. So that means anywhere along Highway 1, we can cross, as long as we don't run out into moving traffic where they don't have time to stop. But I cross at California and have for years, up by where the Mormon church is, the substation is, and I can watch them, you know, all the way down at Cypress coming up. And what we usually do is we'll cross one lane, stand in the middle, which is kind of not always pleasant because people will like speed up and throw, you know, hit their horn and try to scare you. Which I tell people, if you ever encounter that, always keep a rock in your pocket. I'm not telling you have to throw it, but you know, there's a lot of ways we can take back our highway. Moss Beach is also the only area where they moved the speed limit up to 50. From Devil's Slide down to Half Moon Bay, except for at the airport, it's at 45. I think actually El Granada Beach is also at 50, but the traffic has always been, cross traffic has always been enough to slow them down. Anyway, long story short, I think that you have to be tenacious. I think, and I just heard the end of Chris, but I've known him for years. I'm sorry I missed it. It's been years since I've come here. I miss his rants, but they're good rants. But I think you have to be tenacious and just keep saying, this is unacceptable. I mean, Marcia was saying, I heard her talk, you know, we've been asking for this. It looks like they just, you know, threw some paint down there. And if they're going to do that, then do it at every single intersection. I mean, you know, we got to get people to slow down. And it's not fair. On the weekends, it's horrible. During the week, it's horrible. You know, I'm only going to keep getting slower and slower crossing the street. You know, it's a fact of aging. But I see, you know, young mothers with strollers trying to get across. You know, this is not fair. And so I punched this up a little and saying, you know, yes, we've been asking for a safe crossing and put the safe in capital letters and italics and everything else. That's hardly safe. You know, a crosswalk is not safe.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks.
So we need a motion to approve the letter so we can discuss it.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Let's start with Barbara. You're going to stop sitting there pretty soon.
I am moving. Thank you, Chris, Marcia, Bill. I think there's no words to describe it. It's a horrible looking crosswalk. It's in a horrible place. The speed limit is way too fast for that crosswalk. As you're coming up at it at 50 miles an hour, in the picture that I took, I was going 50, and within seconds I was on top of that crosswalk. You just can't see it coming from the south, going northbound. You can see it better coming from the north, but it was put together. It was like a clown show watching it be put up, and then to see those signs are an even more insult. And I don't know if it's possible, but do we have to get this letter out this meeting? Can we make it more like what Chris is saying, of holding them to the fire a little bit more? And that's all I have to say.
Michelle?
Yeah, I drove by the crosswalk on Thursday as it was being painted and was just in shock that, like, I had not heard anything about this. You know, I know many people have been fighting for so long to get this. So a crosswalk in itself is a really good thing, but the way that it was done, with no notice, with it painted poorly, I am, like Chris, very curious as to how that happened. And I do really want to understand, like, what the process that led up to the painting of this crosswalk was. Like, I almost thought it was a mistake, like someone painted it in the wrong spot. It didn't seem to make any sense. Like people have mentioned, it's right next to the Taqueria, where there's unfettered access to the highway from several locations. It's across the street from Moss Beach Park, basically. I mean, you just cross and go up. Moss Beach Park is right there. I know there are many community members on the other side, on the ocean side of the highway, that do cross regularly. And, personally, I have a 3-year-old. I've never crossed with her. I would never feel safe doing it. And I'm worried that putting the painted crosswalk there makes people more comfortable crossing when they really shouldn't be. It's really unsafe the way it is. I do think it would be great if there were a crosswalk there that was planned, that was safe, that had the proper lighting and signs, or possibly even a signal. A median would be good. And so where we're at right now is I just feel like we need to take this opportunity to make this is what people wanted, but it needs to be safe. I do feel like this letter could be stronger, that we could, come down on Caltrans a little bit more in terms of how this was done. But I think we need to hold them accountable to make this a safe crossing, to put, to make the crosswalk bigger, to put more signs, and to, ideally close off the entrances to the highway near this, so people don't get hit. I'm very worried the way that this was put together, and the way it is that someone's going to get hit and hurt and injured, or even worse. So yeah, I'm glad we're taking a stand on this so quickly, and I fully support this letter, but I do think we can make it stronger.
I'm just going to take my turn with the group here, but I'm glad we got this on the agenda, because it came out. It's a Thursday afternoon. We have to get the agenda out like on Friday. So things have changed every single day with this, and I would not object to doing something different with this letter, because things are continuing to change. But as I was thinking about what I've seen that might work, because the thing that came to my mind is Davenport, as you drive down to Santa Cruz. And the thing that makes that work best, I think, is the fact that the speed limit drops by 15 or 20 miles per hour as you come into the town, and they really enforce it. They also have flashing things and whatnot, but the big thing is the speed limit. So
for the public in particular, and perhaps for some of the people on the council who didn't see this whole thing in process, this letter was written before we even know for sure that it was Caltrans that did it. And while it could be rewritten, I think there's real benefit in getting this out tonight. We can certainly have multiple follow-ups on this. We've been asking for, safer sections in Moss Beach and reduced speed limits forever. I think that this gives us another place to make that request again. The one thing I would like to add to this letter that I hadn't thought about when I first saw the draft is we've been pushing heavily for communications between government agencies, including Caltrans. That should have been fresh in the mind of all the Caltrans people that deal with the coast, and yet none of them thought to communicate with us. So I do think we should add at least a sentence, perhaps a separate paragraph in here, stressing the need for them to communicate with us on projects. This is exactly what happened with the crosswalk at the Hostel Lighthouse in Montera. It just showed up one day. And we gave them a very hard time about that, and yet nobody remembered. And granted, they've got turnover too, but they do have a process, and either we're not in the process or they're not following it. So I do think we need to make it stronger. I think this crosswalk is needed. I think, yes, it needs to be safer. It needs to be better marked. Those signs are the first step. Whether it needs flashing lights or not, I'm not going to say. I've had sort of acrimonious conversations with residents of the Midcoast on flashing lights at crosswalks. I've been involved heavily in the Gray Whale Cove, which has the hybrid overhead beacon, which has a lot of people quite upset. And many people in Moss Beach do not want to see that in Moss Beach. Other people want it for safety. We can follow up on that and get community input, but I think we should send this letter in some form tonight and plan follow-ups.
So I agree with a lot of the comments. So far, I'm relatively new to the area, but that was one of the first things that I noticed when this stretch became part of my daily commute, having passed through it multiple times a day. just how treacherous it can be. It does feel like that addition kind of adds to that a little bit. And I know when I first saw it at the end of last week, I thought it was, I don't want to say a joke, but it just seemed like what is that? It was just very jarring. It just looked so strange and out of place. In regards to the letter, kind of again agree with the comments around that. It also, with strong feelings about this particular example, hopefully does give us a little bit of leverage, like some of the things that were said, to push for the other highway safety things that we're talking about, to put them more on the forefront. And then thinking back to some of the positive communications that we had with Caltrans earlier in the year, perhaps we can bring some of that back and maybe have an opportunity for them to come out and talk about it and present, whatever was going on that led to that, and kind of give the full story.
They were invited tonight. Dan, I'm going to finish that.
Yeah.
I agree with Chris. This is outrageous that, they just came in here and did that, and they come up with a story which is very hard to believe there's any sincerity with it. It's clear to me that there's a number of people with power who have obviously pushed this to make it happen. I don't know who they are, but obviously, somebody didn't like the public process and said, the hell with this. Let's just do this. Let's just, having said that, clearly there is a need for a safe crossing here. I've always said from day one, the Cadillac, the best for the long-term future, the best situation here is somehow having a non-grade crossing. I personally believe that an pedestrian underpass is absolutely the best thing for that. And I know it's going to be difficult, maybe a little bit of eminent domain needed. I don't think a lot. I think if we put our hats on and we get started working on it, have a feasibility study, have some public, serious public discussions about this, I think we can get there. Clearly, the benefits of having an underground, pedestrian underpass is over the long haul. Pedestrians are not going to get hit by a car, period. It's impossible. 100% safe. And the added benefit of we're going to have less gridlock. It's a no-brainer. It's not difficult to see that. We just need to have people to start the conversation. I've always been advocating for this. I'm not the only one in the community. There's a lot of I've been along with this whole process for, I don't know what it is, 8 years. And I've heard a lot of other people in the community that also believe this. If we can't have the underground, I think the second best thing is to have, we've talked about this at length, what do they call the kind of zigzag across, or at least have a large painted median in the middle. Mm-hmm. The crosswalk is ridiculously narrow. It's absurd. It's to laugh at. I'm just shocked.
Dan, can we move around again? You get more
I'm
chance.
almost done. Do you want to just go in circles and come back, or?
Let's do that.
Yeah,
You
we're
may
in time
have
right
more
now.
thoughts when we get back to you again. Barbara?
Okay, first off, I did call our friend down at Caltrans, and they did not have anything to do with it. They were, when I talked to him Friday morning, he didn't even know about it, the guy that's in charge down there.
Just for clarification, this is the Half Moon Bay Maintenance Station?
Yes, and that he was assuming the same thing I was, that they were out there to put the sign that's been knocked down for over a year, the big Virginia Street sign up that they just walked over. I think this crosswalk gives everybody a false sense of security, because since you've been raised as a child, you know that when you stepped into a crosswalk, you can just walk and everybody's going to stop for you, and they're not going to do that on that stretch. I agree that speed limit needs to be reduced. I'm not a person I don't like signs and flashing lights, but for the safety factor, if that's going to be there, then we need lots of signs and lots of flashing lights.
Michelle?
Yeah, I agree. I'm just reading through the letter, trying to figure out specifically what we could do to make it stronger. I haven't gotten there yet, so I'll pass.
Next time. Couple of things. The TAC, I don't understand the ins and outs of that, but they are starting to get more active with the Connect the Coastside thing, and there are going to be more meetings with Caltrans coming up. There is opportunity for an increased amount of interaction with them. What I think needs to happen is, first of all, it has to be immediate action to get rid of whatever risk there are in the current situation. Something has to happen right now before somebody gets hit. The rest of it is process, like Chris says. Since they didn't follow their procedures, that leaves us all wondering, well, what nefarious thing did they have in mind when they did this? And maybe there was nothing, but we don't know because we don't know why they did what they did. So to me, those are the two major things that need to be addressed.
So yes, the TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee on the Connect the Coastside project, is having its first meeting in I think 3 years, maybe even slightly longer. On September 16th, I will be attending that.
As will Len?
I think Len will be attending as the alternate as well. I actually had to postpone a vacation a day to attend that, so I didn't want to miss the first one in 3 years. This will definitely be brought up. Connect the Coastside is driven by the county. My guess is the county wasn't notified about this either, including Public Works, even though Public Works should have been notified since they have the adjacent streets, but my guess is they were not. And I just wanted to ask, so as a straw poll before I make an amendment, would people support adding a paragraph asking for better communication and making that a formal mechanism? Trying to come up with 40.
In terms of maybe strengthening some of the arguments, the third paragraph that states that that the painted crosswalks are dangerous, and then perhaps we can use some of the data that Chris provided or some other examples referencing code from Caltrans or what's acceptable in other areas is to sort of highlight how this is not in line with that. And then the second paragraph, the community had no awareness. Perhaps you could add something on like contrary to, or the opposite of what the process was supposed to be, some language in there to highlight what they didn't do or what they should have done to inform us better. Just some thoughts on rounding out what we're saying.
Dan?
Yes, so as I was saying, there's certainly a need for safe crossing there. I think I'm against. I'd like to ask we strike the hawk signals, the on-demand, in-road demand lighting. I don't think that is really something that we should advocate for now. The community has already said they don't like that concept. We've already gone through this, and for us to have this on the letter saying, "Oh well, we ignore what the community said. Let's just let's put that in there and make it official." I think we need to strike that. I think again that the best alternative, with the exception of an pedestrian underpass, would be to have a wide crosswalk with a large painted median refuge. And I really also think I've seen, I know a lot of, it may sound funny, a lot of other communities have done this. It's concept, very low budget, and it'd probably be very effective, I think. Should be tried. I don't think it should, I think we should try it. And that is, what they have is they have like orange flags in a little container on both sides. So when a pedestrian's actually ready to cross, he can clearly give a signal to the car, yes, I want to cross right now. I'm not waiting for this other guy to come up, or I'm not, just thinking, I'm ready to cross now. And people, the drivers know that, they see that, they're more apt to hit the brake pedal and give the signal to go. So it's a low cost measure. I think it should be tried. So I think that should be written in the paragraph. Definitely strike the hawk signals. Communities already said that they do not like the idea of a hawk signal here. And in-road on-demand lighting, strike that. The communities already said they don't like it. And we already know that it gives a false sense of security.
Reading this chart that Chris took the time to do is eye-opening. And I think that, I wish this could just be part of the letter, because this is so well done. But I tend to agree with Dan about deleting the hawk signal, because I just don't care for those, but that's my personal opinion.
Michelle?
I'm still kind of I'm leaning toward, we could, I think what Dave said about making it stronger in terms of the process could be combined with pointing out in more detail the lack of process that was followed this time. So we do have that one sentence at the end of the second paragraph that says the community had no awareness that this was going to be installed. I think we could potentially move that into its own paragraph, elaborate on it about, something I just was drafting, something like there was zero public outreach or communication with local agencies prior to the painting of the crosswalk, which is antithetical to everything we've been working for over the last many years, or something to that effect. In terms of a little bit of a review for not following the process. So I would advocate for adding something in like that. In terms of the improvements, I think there are a number of possibilities that could happen. Like Claire said earlier, I think there are things that need to happen immediately, and then there are things that are going to take longer time. Installing a median is probably not that quick. I don't know. Who knows? They painted the crosswalk in a day, but I think we should ask for kind of pace it out. Say immediately we need better signage. Potentially with lights. In the longer term, we would like something else more specific. And I'm fine with striking hawk signals. In road on-demand lighting, I actually don't have a problem with. Personally, I think that could be pretty valuable in terms of increasing awareness of where the crosswalk is.
I've seen, we have sent out letters that had a link either at the bottom or embedded in the letter to additional information. And I'm certainly not the technical person here, but if there was some way to give access to something like what Chris wrote without putting it all in the letter, but having it available to be looked at, that might be something to think about. In terms of listing options, I'm not really big on telling people how they should do something, an agency or something, because they presumably know what their options are. I just put a bunch of things that I could think of, and I'm okay with taking the hawk signals out. I'm also okay with adding underground or overground crossings to the list, or we could just leave out the options altogether and say, look, you got to do something. So I could go in either way with that.
The one thing I was going to just add is my understanding as it relates to medians is that Caltrans require additional lighting be installed as well if they're going to be installing medians.
That's an actual raised median.
Right.
And not a painted median. So I'm fine with dropping clock. I think a significant majority of the community has said they don't want signals of any kind. So I'm fine with dropping that. The rest of it, we have had mixed opinions on every single item. I think I would change would include to could include improvements such as, if we did something like that and then drop hawk signals, I think that's fine. I think in that paragraph or subsequent to it, rather than putting a link to anything, we should just say, this crosswalk does not comply with Caltrans standards for pedestrian crossings on a state highway, and just let it go at that. They know what their standards are.
I agree with what you just said. I think that's probably the clearest way to articulate that point, that they should actually know that this wasn't the safest way to do it, and that's our strongest argument.
Yeah.
I think our strongest argument is that the process failed. Somebody bypassed the process. That's the argument. You know, it's clearly a concern of the community. And so the community should have been left in the loop, and they were not. So I think that, you know, it's well written that government should be working for the people, and here's an example where they're bypassing the process. So process bypass is what I think, the fact that the process has been bypassed it should be added somehow.
Okay. It sounds like what we're getting toward is some relatively specific ways in which to modify the letter. So maybe that should be our focus at this point, unless someone else has something else that they want to bring up that we haven't talked about. So let's talk about how to modify the letter.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Do we have a consensus on the council that we should send a letter as soon as possible and send subsequent ones after subsequent meetings? Or do people really want to hold off on this letter until we rewrite it?
Well, I agree that a letter should go out immediately. I just don't want to drop it. I don't want to say, okay, we did this letter and it doesn't become another agenda item and we just let it slide.
That's not going to happen.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I think we should send a letter tonight. And if we have to sit here until 10 o'clock to finalize it, I'm fine doing that.
I agree.
Obviously, I agree. I just want to make sure. I'm sorry.
You think so?
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to stay here till 10 o'clock, but I think we can. I think we can work through this.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, I think we should not add, say it's okay on print. You know, something that has been not really, or that's been you know, really the community's been against, and that is, you know, the whole concept of the hawk signals, and you know, the in-road demand lighting. It's the same. The problem is pedestrian thinks all they got to do is hit the button, and then they walk straight out. They don't even look. They think automatically if the lights are flashing, they have the right of way, and you know, we know that does not work. So it's a more, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about what should be best for that location, but I don't think that we should be writing what has already been discussed as a major concern.
Okay. So what we could do at this point as we go around is, if you have specific language that you want to propose, we could do that in the form of an amendment if you're at that point, or if you want to throw out approximately what you want to say and have some feedback on it either way. So Barbara, you have some ideas?
What do you want me to do again?
Do you have specific suggestions for modifying the letter?
Well, you're not going to like mine. I think it needs to be I think it needs to say that the Moss Beach community is outraged as well as the rest of the coast. But you look at next door, there's a couple of hundred people. If you add up all the comments that have made, they're not here tonight, but they're upset about it. And, you know, to have a nice fluffy letter of, gee, thanks for thinking about us, I think it should be harder, but that's me.
Do you have anything specific that or you just kind of in general would like the tone to be different?
I think the tone needs to be more that we're not happy with this, not the citizens, none of us are happy with it.
Michelle, have you got some of the wording you want?
Yeah, I have a few things that I think we can add. I don't know if we could maybe put a letter up in a Word doc where you can edit in real time.
That's what I'm doing. I brought it up with only the PDF as input, so the editing will be a little weird, but.
Yeah, one of the things that I just was doing, you know, I know in the second paragraph we talk about there are also advisory signs, one with a flashing beacon some distance from the crosswalk. I feel like that actually, bringing that up in that context almost weakens our argument. I just did a little distance tracking thing on Google Maps to see actually how far, because it is a pretty great distance, and I just measured it out. It's 0.3 miles, which is about 1,500 feet.
I did it on my car today, it was 0.6 miles.
Oh,
from the crosswalk to the farthest sign.
Which direction?
The first sign going north.
Going north, okay, yeah. Yeah, I guess that, maybe that's more accurate.
Well, there's two signs, maybe it's pretty.
Yeah. There are, yeah, so whatever, if we want to put like an actual distance, or if we're not sure on the actual distance, maybe we can say something like, well, let me actually start a little bit higher up. So we see that there is now a zebra type crosswalk. I think we should say 7 foot wide as measured by Chris, right? 7 foot wide zebra type crosswalk at Highway 1 and Virginia Street, which does not comply with Caltrans standards. Put that right up there.
Okay, where did you want that? I'm sorry.
So before zebra type, add 7 foot wide. And then at the end of that sentence, after street, comma, which does not comply with Caltrans standards.
How about
Or
this crosswalk does not comply with Caltrans standards, safety standards. Does that work?
Can we change?
Fix with.
Does not comply with, thank you. Look, I never complained, never claimed to be an actual secretary.
Can we change standards to requirements? Just requirements.
Requirements and safety standards?
I'd be okay with taking out the references to the signs.
Yeah, I don't think it helps our argument.
I was just trying to describe it, but it doesn't help, you're right.
Those signs have nothing to do with the crosswalk. They pre-exist, and they are general warnings that at any point in the next mile, you might be crossing. And so by putting it in there, it almost legitimizes them as somehow part of this process.
Right.
The one on the southbound going from California down actually says here with an arrow. Is that just me? It's between California and Virginia. It's about, but it has a, it's on the ground. It's not on the pole.
Oh yeah, no, those are, they put those in today, or put them in. They dumped them off the side of the truck.
And that second sentence, can we squeeze in it does not comply with the process, public process also?
Yeah, I was actually going to suggest we create a new paragraph to talk about that. And I can read out. Yeah, I had written there was zero public outreach or communication with local agencies prior to the painting of the crosswalk.
Yeah, it's not just the council. They
Right.
didn't notify anybody.
Or the county.
They
We
didn't,
could
follow-
list
they
out.
didn't, as Chris said, they didn't do the engineering studies, as far as we know.
Or look at the ones the county did.
I know this will be too strident for what you're asking for, but a line that I would like to see, or a modified version of this line is, again, they need to answer some questions. I mean, we insist on a detailed, credible explanation as to how and why this crosswalk was installed at this time at this location. Some variation of that the council would be, but to not ask that question, why? I mean, they've already given you two answers. Why? Why did this happen? Why didn't they look at the engineering studies? Why didn't they do their own engineering? Why did this suddenly appear?
Okay, so putting something like that would go well here, I guess. Somebody get some wording?
Somebody want to give me wording?
Well, one of the things I think kind of goes in line with that, this has a long history in the community, so emphasizing that, I've heard like since 2010 and like all, that's a long time to have had these issues not addressed, and all of a sudden something pops up that supposedly wasn't, we didn't ask for it in this way. So it wasn't initially.
Well, it's sort of in this first
So I was
paragraph.
thinking in the first paragraph, starting it off with since 2010, which kind of just adds that context of like, oh yeah, this is a long time.
Wasn't it earlier than that?
Well, and you could even reference the preliminary planning study document that was published by the county, and I'd have to look back at exactly what year, but it's posted up on the San Mateo County Planning and Building webpage that looks at, I believe it's 7 different crossings, including at this location.
I could look it up. Is it Safe Crossings?
A preliminary planning study, you can Google that with, or Coastside Transportation Studies and San Mateo County Planning. I think they have a page there.
Okay, go on. I'm just going to do this while people are talking.
Ellie, how did you announce about the crosswalk? How did you find out about it?
I actually heard about it from, I was copied on an email that Len Erickson sent with the video that you showed this evening, and that was the first that I heard of it. And I know there's another staff person in Supervisor Horsley's office that lives on the coast side, and they mentioned that they saw the crosswalk. So that's how I learned about it. And I know that the Chief of Staff, Chris Hunter, has been doing kind of some research to try and also figure out, because at first when I saw the video, we were kind of thinking, did someone just come in here and paint this? And didn't know if it was actually Caltrans, but yeah.
So the first paragraph, we want to be basically saying this has been going on for a long time and nothing has happened, and here we are. Let's not put a date, because I don't think we know the date, but let's just say for many years.
I put over 25 years,
Okay.
because I think Bill was right, it has been over that long.
Your kids are how old now? I mean, yeah.
23.
Okay, over 25.
What is it? For a bucket of paint.
And also, I got something from one of our people in Resistance, and they said that there had been 14 pedestrian crossings at street level between Half Moon Bay and the tunnel in the 2016 Connect the Coast report.
Yeah, that drew on the safety and mobility.
Right,
study.
so then why did they pick this, I mean, how did
Well, we don't know why
Caltrans
they
get
did
that?
that.
Yeah,
That is
so,
a county
right,
project, not a Caltrans project.
right, but
That's why I'm referring to the safety and mobility study here.
Yeah, is it the Highway 1 Congestion and Safety Improvement Project?
It has like 4 different names at different
And their
times.
phases.
The document is dated August 2015 is when it was published, and it's called Preliminary Planning Study for Highway 1 Congestion and Safety Improvement Project. And you may even consider, I don't know if it makes sense to link it in this letter if you're sending it digitally, but
I would suggest not including links in this.
Yeah. So
let me make sure I say why I want that. Sorry to interrupt you, Claire. Cut me off when I'm going too long. But I want this to be the start of a dialogue, not the, okay, here's everything, we're done.
Okay, so let's go back to what we want to do with the letter. There should be a comma and then a small e there.
Okay, don't worry about typos. Like I said, I'm editing a PDF in Word, and it's going to look horrible.
I think we should
fix all
say
that.
something else, one more sentence in that first paragraph saying, even though this has been going on for over 25 years, nothing has ever been done.
Well, but they'll point to the crossings at the lighthouse. So,
All right,
and that's another, we could cite that as another example we don't want, but again, I see that as follow-on.
Is there some way to say that we've been advocating for it for a long time
Without the desired
success?
impact or without the desired without resolution?
Yeah, without resolution, that's good.
So after 25 years?
I have problems with that because we have had resolution, it's just not what we want.
Well, you want to just leave it like it is?
I'm struggling with wording. I'm not going to say no.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I don't want this to be a tome, and I don't want everybody to argue about, oh, you were wrong about this, that, and the other.
Could you make it smaller so we can see it?
I can try.
Okay.
Well,
That arrow, will that give me?
yeah, that'll give us something.
If we could just break down the paragraphs, then I think we hope we can do this quickly. First paragraph would be, we've been talking about this for a long time. Second paragraph is, here it is, it doesn't meet safety standards. Third paragraph is, nobody did anything to explain why this was happening. Nobody knew about it. Nobody used their normal procedures. Fourth paragraph is,
How dangerous it is.
Fourth and fifth paragraphs maybe could go together. Fourth is like, we got to do something right this minute. Next paragraph is, you also have to think about what you're going to do down the road. And then the last one is, we wish you well.
And you and the horse you rode in.
So if we could just like complete each thought and then we'll be done? Okay. So the first one is, we've been talking about this for a long time.
Well, I feel like we're not really done with that paragraph yet.
Yeah,
I don't think
I'm not going to claim we're done.
Yeah, I don't think we should start a sentence with especially in Moss Beach. It kind of, it's a weird.
That was left over from original
Yeah.
word.
I think we just took out the especially and.
Yeah, in Moss Beach.
And which is Moss Beach is the only city in San Jose County that is. Well, wait, no, that doesn't make sense.
In Moss Beach, the only city in San Mateo County that has significant population on both sides of the highway, we could actually put in that point, there are no existing crosswalks.
Or safe crossings.
Safe crossings.
Because we'd be open to other ways of doing it.
7 foot wide.
Most people not a city.
True.
Only neighborhood.
Good point.
Community.
It's only community. So we take out especially. Take out especially. Start with N. And then the only community, I say take out which is, just say the only community in San Mateo County.
So you want,
In Moss Beach, the only community in San Mateo County that has significant population on both sides of the highway, there are no safe crossings.
Okay.
okay, I've got what you want, I'm just trying to get there.
Yeah. And then I just change city to community. I think that's a good point. It's not city.
Thank you.
I think that's enough for that paragraph.
Yeah, I think the county project I think it's good to reference the project, but not here necessarily.
We just try to get the point across about here's this thing we need to deal with.
Yeah.
So if you can make that 2 different paragraphs, Dave.
I'm having trouble with it, just assume it's 2 different paragraphs.
Well, yeah. it's really
Every time I
easy to
try, it wants to put a blank line somewhere else.
Can we take out the sentence about San Mateo County's project?
Yeah.
Which
There
sentence?
is an entire-
Fourth line.
I'm sorry, give me some words.
There is an entire San Mateo County project.
You don't want that there. You don't want it there, you don't want it
We don't want it at all, I don't anyway.
So is that where you wanted the paragraph, right?
Yeah. Okay, second paragraph. Here it is, it's not okay. So how do we want to flesh that out?
I think that one's good.
Let's strike we see that and start with.
There is now.
There is now.
Yeah. I was going to say, well, here it is.
It just appeared overnight.
Or we could also say on August 22nd or whatever day it was.
Yes, August 26th.
22nd.
Well, the day that was painted, we could say on August 22nd, a 7-foot wide zebra stripe crosswalk appeared.
Let's get rid of there is now.
Yeah, get rid of that.
A 7-foot unsafe zebra type crosswalk
Was painted? Or?
was painted, yes.
Although Caltrans says it was melted.
Well, he said it might have been either. It's
Was
clearly
installed?
painted.
I don't know.
He just
What does
wasn't
that
sure
mean?
because he hadn't seen it.
It's plastic.
Oh.
In Moss Beach.
Can we add to
Their own document calls this type of crosswalk a ladder.
Ladder? Okay.
It's in that.
Yeah, I saw that.
So we should correct that.
Let's just drop zebra type and just say crosswalk. You want me to bold unsafe?
So this crosswalk does not comply with Caltrans' own requirements and safety standards.
Need an apostrophe after Caltrans.
Caltrans apostrophe?
Yeah.
Yes, you're technically correct.
presents a hazard to pedestrians and drivers.
I thought we had that in here somewhere.
That's kind of the 4th paragraph.
Okay. Felt like that paragraph was kind of short.
Yeah.
We could move this up here if we wanted to.
Which one?
Yeah, that goes with that. The urgent need to improve.
The draft thing kind of gets in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see if I can get that back. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain while I figure out how to use this.
So we could go directly into, we note, however, your long-standing concern that painted crosswalks tend to create a false sense of invulnerability.
Oh, do you want to go into that and then do the note about how the failure, the communication breakdown at the end?
That's what I'm thinking, is that maybe make those two major topics separate from each other. Is this a good process? Are we doing this in a way that's productive and feels inclusive or not?
something
I
that we
think,
can do,
I think
right?
everybody is speaking up and we're getting input from the community, so it feels okay to me.
Okay.
Chaotic, but okay.
If anybody else thinks otherwise, say so.
All
I mean,
right,
it's the only way
so
we
we
can
want
get it done.
there is an urgent need added to that second paragraph? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Some statement about this
The
is,
safety, like the specific.
Well, I thought we were gonna drop the third paragraph and move it down,
yeah.
and then we, yeah, then we
Okay.
kinda, then
I'm
it
not-
just,
I'm waiting. I thought I heard that there is an urgent need was going in the second paragraph. Did I mishear?
No, I think we said that.
Yeah, I'm legal behind the safety stuff.
That's where it won't let me put the paragraph break in. Just assume there's a paragraph break here.
well, we're gonna move that whole thing down, I think, so.
Which are we moving?
The third, I think we're gonna move the third paragraph to the, basically, to be right before the last paragraph, or is that what we talked about?
I think we're trying to put all the stuff about, here's what needs to happen to make this more safe in one, or something has to happen to make it more safe in one long paragraph.
One chunk.
And then one chunk, and then another chunk about the process.
Okay,
And then
so
we're done.
this is moving to before the MCC asks.
Yeah,
I mean, we could do this outside of the meeting, but then we would have to get together and approve it.
we're almost there, we're halfway done at least. Would it be easier to just copy and paste this into a Word doc at this point?
So I don't have Word.
Or a Google
This is
Doc?
the equivalent of Word.
Okay.
No, I do not want to start over in Google Docs.
You know, I could just do this in longhand and read it.
I am fine if somebody wants to do that.
I think we should take a picture of this just in case it gets lost when you try to, because before you're.
It's on video, like as if you could read it from back there. I'll take a picture.
Okay, forget that this hasn't moved yet. What else do we want to change?
Look, why don't we go with, crosswalks can give a false sense of safety. For this reason, the current mitigation actually is dangerous.
Yeah, I think we should, just for grammatical sake, we should update that. It's weird to start with "we note," however, now that we've moved around the
Yeah,
stuff
just drop that
before.
part. Yeah.
So just,
Crosswalks can give a false sense of safety.
yeah. For this reason, the current mitigation, I would even say,
Is
more
dangerous. Let's just say-
dangerous than without a crosswalk.
Yeah.
Let's just say as is dangerous. I don't want them to say, well, you didn't want us to help you.
Why don't we just say, the current crosswalk is dangerous? Period.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just starting with painted crosswalks, right?
So we could like, take that whole 2 sentences and just say this crosswalk is dangerous? Is that what you want to do?
The recently painted crosswalk is more dangerous than nothing at all.
They'll say you asked for nothing at all.
And this is becoming completely unreadable. I will have to fix this up
Yeah.
from after the meeting, possibly listening to the video. So forget the formatting.
That's
Yeah,
a good idea.
that's fine.
That's a really good idea.
Can we just get rid of the, we note however your long-standing concern that?
I can try.
We know we want it gone.
That might just make some more room. I don't know if that's the way this works.
If we're going to say it's more dangerous than nothing at all, I think we should at least have a few words about why it's more dangerous than nothing at all, so that they don't come back and say you wanted nothing at all.
Oh, I thought we were gonna keep the painted crosswalks can lend to a false sense of security. And for this reason, the recently painted crosswalk is more dangerous than nothing at all.
Okay, I misheard. Say that again.
Well, you can
Is
just
that
add to
an
that, and
agreement?
say the recently painted crosswalk is more dangerous than nothing at all due to the false sense of security that painted crosswalks
Create.
But that this one creates, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Due to the false sense of security that it
False
creates.
sense of security
That it creates.
it creates.
Yeah.
Security. I gotta be able to spell that.
So now do we want to go into, here's what we want you to do about it, or should we go directly into, here's why you did it in a not following you, here's what was wrong with the procedure?
Well, are we gonna keep there's an urgent need to improve the visibility of this crossing? There are no similar crossings in the area and motorists do not expect to encounter one while traveling at or above.
Yes.
Okay. I think that paragraph's good then.
Okay.
So I just changed that first part of that paragraph that got highlighted. Are we okay with that? It just said you before.
Can we add, oh, never mind. I was gonna say.
Do we want to put that list of possible improvements? I'm almost thinking we should drop it.
We could just say
Yeah, I
general.
agree with that, Rob.
But we want the signs up.
We want it to be improved immediately, and
If we don't say what, then you could wind up with hawk beacons.
Well, can we put that then, where it says there's an urgent need to improve the visibility of the crossing, which could include signs or whatever up there?
I think we should say, I think we should maybe have a few minutes to discuss what exactly we want right now and what we want them to consider for the future.
Yes.
Because I think this is a phase thing, like I was saying before. Right now, we need some kind of signage that's not on the ground, potentially with like a light or some kind of,
So then that goes with that, we're saying there's an urgent need to improve the visibility right now by doing A or B or C or whatever. And then,
I don't know what they intended. They said they needed underground utilities for.
It must be electricity, lighting, I mean.
Presumably not sewer.
Hopefully not.
And that proves that they didn't do an engineering study. They
Right.
didn't know what they need.
Yeah. So can we say, would we all be agreeable to say, where was the part where we were adding? something about putting an urgent, there's an urgent need to put in lighted signs.
I think this is where we are. The MCC asked the Caltrans and public officials work with the MCC to improve the safety.
Yeah.
But that's where we have that, it says there's an urgent need to improve the visibility of the crossing. Could we kind of consolidate those two? Because they're or are they separate?
I don't think it hurts to reiterate.
Yeah.
Do we want them to make the crosswalk wider?
See, that's the sort of thing.
Yes, did we all agree with that? We want it wider?
I think so.
We want,
And the flags, pedestrian crossing flags.
what does that mean exactly?
What do you?
It's very common, it's used all over the nation.
I've never seen it used on a highway.
I've never seen it on a highway, I've seen it on
seen
streets like in
cities use
Berkeley
it.
and cities and San Mateo.
I kind of don't want to get into a whole lot of here's the different things you might consider doing.
Well, I think we should say what they should do. I mean, if we can come to an agreement.
Council,
A large painted median also.
for the 10 o'clock thing, and you had all mentioned, like, this is the start of maybe a series of letters, like.
Yeah.
And I know you've done a lot of work already, and I really appreciate it, like, maybe just like a simple paragraph of, what was done is unacceptable, it's unsafe, and it needs to be fixed immediately, and almost leave it at that with more letters to come, because that's really what you're saying to them. Otherwise, you are gonna get stuck trying to, like, well, what alternatives can we put in, and like, what do we want, like, it's unsafe.
This is an emergency.
It's an emergency, it needs to be fixed immediately, and fixed should be, Caltrans should, they're acting independent, fixed, they know what needs to be fixed, and you're calling them on it, and it's just a simple one paragraph letter, 2 or 3 sentences, just letting them know, hey, unacceptable, fix it, and then you could get into more of like, when they come back, like, well, what do you mean, fix it? But tonight, you gotta get something, and it needs to be like super succinct and direct, just to help you, otherwise.
I think that's right.
There's a lot of things that you're trying to put into this letter that, what's your main message tonight?
I think the main message tonight is this is bad, you got to fix it, and you did this in a really backhanded way. We'd like to get to the bottom of that. But the biggest thing is it's bad right now, you got to fix it.
I agree, but I think there's like I said, there are 2 phases. There's fixing it right now. What does that mean? And then we want to work with you in the future to make this an even safer crossing, because I feel like the things that they can do in the next week are not going to be sufficient for the long term, and we need to make it clear to them that this is a start of a process, that they've taken the step without our input. They need to fix it immediately so no one gets hurt, and we need to work together to improve this for the long term.
But those are your 3 sentences right there, and when they say, that would start a dialogue. What do you mean it needs to be fixed? Oh, thank you for asking. Here's our next letter. Because they're not going to listen anyways, but putting in a bunch of specifics of how to fix it, they should know these things.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm actually getting frustrated because I'm breaking it more than I'm fixing it. We have, I think, the content we want. Who are the 3 people who should review this to make sure that we agree it's what the council intended before it gets sent?
I'd like to do it.
I'd like to too.
I'll do it.
Okay, so I will fix up what I've broken,
Okay.
send it to the 3 of you, and we'll trust you guys to get it the way we did it. Is that agreeable to the rest of the council?
Yeah. Did you want to take another, you're going to move on or take a picture of?
Well, we've got this.
Sure, I'm not going to lose it.
I'm not going
I'm
to
going
lose
to
it.
take a picture just in case.
Go for it.
I trust you, but just to make the effort.
I wouldn't trust me right now, so that's good.
So we have a motion to.
So I move that we designate a committee of Barbara, Michelle, and Claire to finish rewriting this letter as discussed in the last hour and send it off.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? All opposed? 6-0, so we will do that.
Thank
We'll
you,
do this as
everybody, and
quickly
the
as
community who
possible.
gave up on us, except for Chris.
Thank you, council. Thanks for listening.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Chris.
working hard on it, and
Thank you.
we'll be back again for more.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you,
Thanks, Chris, for your work as well.
Yes, you did a lot.
You guys are doing the hard stuff.
Oh, yeah. Council activity? Barbara?
I'm still meeting with the, what's it, CCAG? Whatever, CCAG?
The garbage people?
The garbage people, Waste Management. And we're redoing the plan, it's a 15-year plan. And so our next meeting is next week to start actually rewriting it. And that's it.
Thank you.
No updates.
Nothing from me.
I have a brief report on the Loney Portola Trail. The last meeting of the interpretive committee planned has now ended. It was a week ago yesterday. Everything is in place for the new visitor center at Sanchez Adobe and the events there. The San Mateo History Association is having the traveling exhibit at Fish and Fleet on September 15th, which is another announcement. Fish and Fleet is September 15th. And City of Pacifica is doing events. The Pacifica Historical Association is doing events. All of these will be on various press releases and, of course, on the county Loney Portola Heritage Trail webpage.
Tomorrow? Dan?
No, that's.
Future agendas, what we have here right now is that Barbara and Tamara are going to do a consciousness raising on composting with the sustainability office is going to be here. Coastal Trail Len's got something on that. 25th is the Chamber of Commerce is going to do a business update for the Midcoast. Any other things that people are working on? Barbara?
I
would like to work on.
would like to have an item about possibly getting an internet connection at the airport office. And I actually talked to Ellie about it tonight, and she's going to check into it, so. I don't know if that has to be an agenda item, or we can just, I'm not sure, but.
But that's something you'd like to look into? Okay.
And also, I'd like to thank Dave for his patience with me the other night, and all your work tonight.
Well, you've put together a whole lot of stuff for tonight.
Yeah, you did.
Michelle?
What? I don't have anything.
Do you have anything for agenda items?
No, I don't.
You're interested in? I'll pass.
Nothing at this time.
Time to go home? Tomorrow? Dan?
So the Harbor District purchased the post office lot. I think that we need to key in on that. So as far as whatever they're going to build there, some people in the community want building as small as possible. And we've got the zoning and all that, potential commercial space. So we should have, not sure the timing, but it's just definitely on the radar in the future. I don't know, for the next meeting or the next one after.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you, we're done. Hey, I want to point out that this entire meeting, we were on a clear schedule within 5 minutes.